Last topic on the table before we get to Fans Forum on our Monday bonus podcast.
Yeah, we're going to go to the SportsWire here. Let's kick it off with, George Foreman.
Oh, my goodness. Passed away at the age of 76. The first thing that flipped into my mind, fists, fury, and faith. That's who he was. Bad dude, came out of Houston. Would have been life in prison or dead in the streets. But he found boxing that got him out. He was a protege of Sonny Liston out of Philadelphia. Sonny Liston, of course, was in prison forever, got out of prison and really made something of his life. Well, he crossed paths with George Foreman, and George Foreman became what Sonny Liston had become. He was a great fighter. That's back when heavyweight boxing was king.
Oh, big time.
And he fought all those great people. His record was 76-5. He had 68 knockouts. Yeah, were there some cream puffs? Of course there were. But he fought Ali, and he knocked down Smokin' Joe Frazier 6 times in 2 rounds. And give me that crown. And
down goes Frazier.
Exactly, as Howard Cosell said. And he beat Jimmy Young, and he beat Michael Moore, and he fought Evander Holyfield. He fought virtually every tough guy there was that came along the road. He finally lost his crown. But his second career, because he got into boxing a little bit late as a professional, second career was ministry. And then his third career became a marketing guru with the George Foreman grill. Just amazing guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Never had the chance to interview him. But everybody that I know that interviewed him talked extensively just about him. I guess to a degree, it's somebody would have to refresh my memory. This is maybe the end of the era of the great heavyweights because they've all passed on outside of Mike Tyson. I'm trying to think if there are any of those other great heavyweights from prior. Holyfield is still alive. But prior, I think all those guys have pretty much passed on. I don't know, Leon Spinks, I think, has passed.
And then Michael Spinks?
Michael might be, but Michael was not there as a champion for a long period of time. But George Foreman, holy cow, what an era. With Liston, Foreman, Ali, phenomenal people.
Yeah.
Larry Holmes.
I mean, it just was a different era with boxing because it was always like Wide World of Sports and it was a must-see TV. It was, the Rumble in the Jungle. There were all these big fights, big personalities. And I remember someone said that back in the granted, those fights were in the 70s, but I remember someone said back in the 50s, the only sports that mattered were Major League Baseball, college football, and professional boxing.
Exactly.
And so boxing is interesting how it's changed so much. Now the UFC fighters are more popular, but none of them come close to the champ.
That era.
To that era, to Ali or Frazier. But George Foreman, man, you got to give some love to that dude. I really liked him.
There was a unique class to who George Foreman was. He was really special. Passes away, age of 76. Next name. What a start to the Formula One season. Sir Lewis Hamilton. New team. He left Mercedes after 105 wins and 7 championships, went to Ferrari. It's been a rocky first couple of weeks for Lewis Hamilton. First week, they could not get the car set up work. They had communications problems. He was yelling at people in the pits while he was on the racetrack. They were trying to help coach him through. He was having all kinds of complications. Second race, Lewis Hamilton runs, doesn't qualify well, starts 10th. Lewis Hamilton gets disqualified post-race event. Three drivers, Lewis Hamilton and his teammate Charles Leclerc, both got DQ'd from the China Grand Prix of China because of weight deficiencies in their car. Not that the drivers had any knowledge of how the car was set up, but the car, if it's not properly balanced in terms of weight, it impacts the aerodynamics. If it impacts the aerodynamics, it can make the car go faster or make it be more dangerous. Anyhow, they do a teardown of all the cars after the races, and 3 drivers, including both Ferrari drivers, got DQ'd, did not finish. So it's been a really rocky start for Sir Lewis Hamilton. Third one, IndyCar season off and running. I'll tell you what, I watch these guys drive on these road courses, and some of the passes they make at the 155 miles an hour in the chicane and the corners. Alex Palou he went crazy yesterday in the Grand Prix they were running. He made 4 passes in third place to finally get around a guy to get second. And I mean, he was darting and dashing on the corners of the turns to pass this guy. I was surprised he didn't rub wheels, surprised he didn't crash, surprised somebody didn't get airborne. Alex Palou got to second, and then he roared to the finish and posted a victory this past weekend. Just ballsy. Just, you talk about brass, talk about courage to make the passes. And Palou right now is a superstar on the IndyCar circuit. So that was really fun to watch. The next one, this is really controversial. This is at Stanford University, the bastion of intelligence, academia, all that.
Harvard of the East.
That head coach, Troy Taylor, I can't believe he still has a job as of this afternoon. He's been implicated for a second time in an investigation of sexual harassment and mistreatment of female employees on the athletic department staff. And they gave him a vote of confidence today. On top of it, he's 3-9 his first 2 years there. I don't understand how he keeps his job, but he's been really hard to deal with up in the Bay Area. And one of the reporters used this quote when making reference. He had access to a piece of the investigation. And one of the reporters told me the employees at Stanford view him as, quote, an equal opportunity asshole. I guess he treats everybody really badly. And why Stanford gives him a public vote of confidence today, that's really beyond me. And the last one's a really sad story. A lot of people might not know this guy. He had become the senior columnist for the San Diego Union Tribune. Bryce Miller has passed away. Bryce had been here about 9 years, maybe 10. Came from the Des Moines Register and the Big 8 Conference, Iowa State, Big 10 and all that. Came out here, had to get his feet wet and settle in. And he started to write some really good stuff, a little bit different interest, big outdoorsman. He fought a courageous battle with bladder cancer. He beat it twice. And I would see him at press conferences all the time and see him at Padre press conferences and then San Diego State, even this past year. And he'd always sit in the first row on the left side. I'd sit in the first row on the right side, and we'd talk, and the coaches. But courageous guy. Passed away, I think he was 56. And I saw him about 8 weeks ago at a press conference. It was the last time I saw him. And I knew he had a relapse. I knew he had really struggled again. And I wound up finding out that he had been hospitalized since February 23rd. And it was a downward slope, and they tried everything they could from a medical standpoint, and the family incurred a lot. They started a GoFundMe campaign from the media, had put money into a GoFundMe campaign. He was a nice guy. A lot of people don't know him because he wasn't here that long. He wasn't vocal. He wasn't loud. He was, I guess the word I could use, I wrote about it on Twitter, on social media. He was just a real kind soul, very classy guy. So our thoughts are with Bryce Miller. Nice man. Passes away. I think he was 56 years of age. So, John, you got a lot of names in the news here.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we lost two special people right there.
Yeah.
With George Foreman and Bryce Miller. And there's been a lot of outpouring of love about Bryce Miller online. And, I've read his columns, but I didn't really know much about him personally. And it was interesting to hear about these sort of adventures he would go on. I think, was it Don Orsillo that said that Miller took him out fishing out by those Coronado Islands.
Sure.
Off of the Mexican coast. And he's gone on these wild, globe-trotting tours, and he writes while he's doing all of this. So special guy, a lot of love. And I'd imagine it's a tight, family of the journalism business, the journalism insiders here in sports in San Diego.
Yeah, some of us know each other really well and are really close friends. Some of us don't know. And then there's some enemies over there that are always out to do something negative. But Bryce was quiet and confined and I asked, if he had I said, hey, when he first got here, I said, you got questions, come talk to me. I'm here all the time. I cover all this stuff. I'm at all these press conferences. And he's cut from a little bit different laid back cloth. He was not a front and center guy. It's all about me. He was, as I said, I thought he was a really kind person. And it's tough. You never know people's personal lives until you ask. And he had stretches where he was not around, and I knew he was sick. And then all of a sudden he came back and he looked good. And I talked to him, and I sat, and then I sat with him maybe 8 weeks ago out at the Aztec Athletic Center, and I said, "How's it going?" And he said, "It's hard." He said, I had another relapse, and that's the problem is cancer. You can beat it, and it comes back, or you can beat it again, it comes back. But as we've seen with the sad loss of Peter Seidler, it does resurface. It did for Bryce for a third time. That's really hard.
Yeah, you just never know what's going to take you out, you
Yep.
know, and too many good people pass away at too young an age. It's tragic. But just one other comment on the list of folks here, Lewis Hamilton. Did he was on Team Mercedes? Did he leave on his own accord for a better opportunity, or was he let go by Mercedes?
He left on his own. He had a phenomenal run. I mean, you win 105 races in Formula One. That's total dominance. But in the last year and a half, Mercedes was not what Mercedes used to be for a long period of time. And they had trouble with setups. They had trouble with technology. They had trouble with horsepower. They had trouble with downforce. I'll teach you before we get divorced here. I'll teach you about Formula One, the complexities of it. It is not just get in the car and go fast. There's so many things.
Well, this whole idea of weighing the car after the race, I never knew such a thing existed.
They tear them all down. But so there's all kinds of things that have to happen in the complexities of Formula One racing. It got away from Mercedes. Same reason we talked all last summer about Team Red Bull, Max Verstappen. Who has a tendency to be really yappy. And Red Bull has dominated this thing for about 3 years. And all of a sudden, last year, their handling went away. And they could not figure it out. And it was half the season. Verstappen dominated, and all of a sudden, everything went askew. And Verstappen, he didn't win again until right at the end of the season. Now he's off to a shaky start again there. It's so tough to, I guess the racing term isn't dial it in. It is so tough to dial in these Formula One cars and make them work. And for the last year and a half with Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, they just lost the ability to compete. I mean, he went the longest time without winning a race, and this guy owned every race there was for years. And then Verstappen owned about a year and a half's worth of races, and then Verstappen stopped winning, and his relationship with Team Red Bull has been like a damn drama soap opera. It's just never. And so Hamilton's with Ferrari, and new guy, great driver, but again, new team, a lot of things are different.
Well, you can imagine what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, these engineers and designers, they're probably all like pointing fingers. Hey, you screwed that up. And I mean, it's got to be chaos in the pit and then behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, I was stunned the first race that they ran. The Australian Grand Prix. I mean, this is an elite driver. This is one of the smartest people in the sport in terms of all the dynamics of getting cars set up. And he's having communications problems with the pit. And he's having problems with the steering wheel with all the mechanisms and the buttons. He said, "How is this possible? This guy's a 10-year superstar, and they can't focus him in. They can't get it done." And his first race was miserable, and second race they get DQs. It's a long season, but when you're that far back in terms of having a complete package that works, very, very hard to fix it.
Grass is not always greener.
Yeah, exactly. And he elected to opt out of Mercedes, and they parted friends. They didn't part as enemies. It was just time for a change. And he's been replaced by his 18-year-old Kimo Antonelli, who had a fourth place finish in his first race. Go figure that.
Wow. So this race was in China, by the way.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
So what are some of the next big races on the schedule?
Oh, they're everywhere. They race here 3 times in the States, I believe. They race one in Canada. They race in Singapore, obviously, Rio in Brazil. They race in Tokyo. It is a true global sport.
Are they going back to Vegas?
Yes.
Because I know there was a lot of controversy with that last one.
Well, the first one there was. The second one was more of a financial success. For the first one was so out of sync because they had so many things had to be done in the city and a cost factor, and for the fans to flood. They're also in Miami, so they're expanding. It's become I'll tell you what, from a TV rating standpoint, F1's become a big thing here in the States.
Yeah, and I think those Netflix movies have made a big difference in getting interest. Now, Monaco, that's also F1, right?
Yep.
Okay. See, this is great, man. The world is more international with sports.
We should go on vacation to Silverstone in England. I think we'd have a good time there.
Yeah. We rolled through there one day, spent a few hours. It's pretty cool, but there were no cars on the track, but it was still fun.
Okay. Hot topics on the table. We do sports talk the way it should be done. We've done our job. You're going to do yours. This